Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining in for this intelligent style holiday party. I was inspired to open up what we were going to do for our collective membership to come together and open it up to create something that was a little bit bigger than just ourselves in the spirit of women supporting women and the holiday season and the end of 2020. Again, and highlight that there are some good things going on in the world too, that people are persisting, we're creating opportunities from obstacles, and there is just magic that happens when like-minded people who are committed to progress and, just good things happening in the world come together, that we can make some magic happen. So I'm Catherine Cassidy, CEO of Boutique Box. For those of you who don't know me, Boutique Box is committed to empowering women through style. We are on a mission, I should say, because Maggie's here and she's been helping me build out the technology, but we are on a mission to realize inclusion, empowerment, and sustainable change through intelligent style. And we are creating a way for women to connect with designers and pieces that really work for them with confidence and ease. So at the end, I can share a little bit more about how we exactly do that if anyone has questions. But one of the things that is so important to me is bringing women together and really encouraging, supporting each other, listening to where we can use the support. And in the case of 2020, supporting women-owned businesses to keep them going forward. And the reason why, again, wanting to bring in some of these organizations is to keep them doing their work, because some of these organizations will share the women that they support, the people that they support have been really impacted by 2020 and don't have the same sorts of resources that some of us do. So because if 2020 has shown me anything, is I have a lot to be grateful for, even if things can be challenging. So with that, Kelsey Phelps, thank you so much for joining us. Kelsey actually inspired the idea when I got her email about, holidays and Seppi. I was like, yes, oh my gosh, we have to open up the holiday party, because I was like, what do I want to do? How do you make it fun and engaging on Zoom? And I was like, oh, yes.
Drinking is always a good way.
Exactly. We'll share an experience, which is what I really believe Kelsey's sparkling wine is. When I had the chance to try it last year at her launch, I was just blown away. I've been very privileged at certain points in my life to experience some very good wine in some very unique settings. And so just like with clothes, I'm a little bit particular. And I don't know that I had any expectations, Kelsey, but it was the bar has been set, here's what I want always now. So with that, Kelsey, please tell us a little bit more about yourself, your vision with Seppi, and I think really how you got started and where you're going.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Catherine, for inviting me to this party and for giving me the opportunity to share Seppi and a little bit of my story. Catherine and I met in DC through a mutual friend and instantly connected because we're two female entrepreneurs, definitely in the grinding stage of getting our businesses going. And so it's great to see you. Your hair looks beautiful. Your skin and makeup looks beautiful. And I love that shirt too. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Seppi, but then I also want to definitely ask about Boutique Box. Speaking of that, I love your shirt. I need some style stuff myself. So let me talk a little bit about Seppi for a second, and then don't let me not ask you about Boutique Box. Gosh, what a great group of people. All right, so where do I start? I want to kind of keep this short, me talking. Sorry, I was looking at the time, me talking, and maybe you guys could ask some questions if there's anything particularly you care about, sort of what it's like to start a business in the wine industry, specifically making wine, you know, any kind of those things, I can answer your questions, whatever you know, anyone's interested in. But just a very brief overview. So I'm an attorney by education and training. I practiced a couple of years in Silicon Valley doing mergers and acquisitions at a big firm. And it wasn't, you know, as you can imagine, the most fulfilling lifestyle, you know, that you could create for yourself. I was exhausted, and, you know, it was great training, but it just wasn't for me. And my grandfather had started a winery in the Napa Valley in the early 70s. It's called Joseph Phelps Vineyards, if any of you guys are familiar. And, you know, so I'd grown up in the wine industry and with that as my background, but I'd always wanted to sort of do my own thing. And, you know, as a kid, you don't really drink wine. I mean, sometimes at dinners and things, but, you know, it's not really like a child you dream of making wine. So, you know, I wanted to be able to stand on my own 2 feet, you know, kind of chart my own path. So that's why I went to law school, you know, started practicing. And then when that wasn't all I thought it would be, I thought to myself, okay, you know, where really is my passion, and what really do I want to wake up doing every day? And I realized I'm so fortunate to have grown up with the background of food and wine and that kind of ethos in my family. And, you know, that's really what I wanted to do and what I wanted to share and what I wanted to be part of creating. And so I decided to quit my law firm job, and I took my savings that I had from, you know, the couple of years that I practiced. And again, I didn't want to work for my family business. I have 2 cousins who do work for my family business, and I do a lot of, you know, family business is its own thing. So, you know, I'm involved in that on the periphery, but again, I wanted to do my own thing. So I took my savings and I thought, okay, what do I love? What do I love to drink? What's more a reflection of my style and something that's not, you know, the same as my family does. My family does mostly high-end Cabernet is our flagship. And so I thought, you know, also did a lot of research on the market and, you know, where the opportunities were, et cetera. And I do think there's definitely a gap for really high quality boutique California sparkling wine. And so that's what I decided to do. So I took my savings and I decided I'm going to start my own sparkling winery, sparkling wine company. And that was in 2017. And even though I had the background in the wine industry, I hadn't either been trained really in everything you need to do to start your own business, A, and then everything you need to do to start your own winery, B. So it was really quite a learning curve. You know, really, I wouldn't change that experience for anything, but it was, you know, a couple rough years, especially before. So I released my first vintage, just stepping back a second, and actually almost about a year ago, December 2019. So it was a 2-year production cycle from starting my business to launching my product. And Catherine, thank you so much for your nice words about my wine, because I will tell you guys that those 2 years, oh my gosh, yeah, I was tasting the wine, obviously, you know, every step of the way. And I thought it was going to be good. I obviously, you know, did everything I could to ensure it would be good, but you never know until it's there and it's out. So when I had my release party last year where Catherine was and finally released the wine and I tried it and I'm like, holy shit, you know, this actually is really good. Thank God. I don't want to have to, you know, I was like, okay, you know, if it doesn't, that's another reason I made sparkling. And that's the reason too why I started with the Blanc de Blanc and the Brut Rosé, because those are my favorite styles of champagne and sparkling wine. So I thought, okay, you know, if it doesn't sell, I'm going to have a lot of it to drink. So it better be something that I like and I enjoy. So it's like, okay, thank God, you know, it's hopefully not going to just be, you know, cases and cases of wine in my house that I, you know, can't move for, you know, the rest of my life. And so yeah, it's been a really fun and interesting journey. And I'm now in my first year. I've had a product out for about a year. So obviously, you know, COVID threw a little bit of a wrinkle, but I'm very fortunate that I set up my business to be mostly direct to consumer, thinking that that's where the wine industry would be going eventually, even pre-COVID. You know, e-commerce in most other areas is, you know, it's the future, and the wine industry is a little antiquated and behind in that way. But I'm like, okay, that's probably, you know, that's where I think the growth opportunities are. So I set myself up to be able to really sell online and through my website. And so I was lucky then, you know, when COVID hit, that was something that didn't totally, you know, cripple me from that perspective. I did, from a marketing perspective, you know, my plan was to do a lot more in-person events and wine dinners and all of those kind of things. So that's been a little bit of a retooling. Yeah, but with that, that's, I think, more than enough of an overview. And if anyone, you know, has any particular questions about the wine, about the process, about the wine industry, or, you know, I'd say other than that, it's Saturday. I'm so happy to, you know, be celebrating with all of you guys, and cheers.
Yeah. Does anyone have any specific questions? I'm happy to open it up to the group, whether you want to type it in or unmute yourself. Michelle, yeah. I know we have some I don't know if I want to say winos, but perhaps we could.
You can say that. So Kelsey, where are your wines available only online? Are they in stores? Like, you know, how has that sort of worked out for you in this sort of COVID time? You know, probably not being able to like go store to store. Are you able to still make those relationships as an entrepreneur and as a winemaker?
Right now, my wine is pretty much only available online. Before COVID, which again was December, sort of January, February, and being the holidays, that's also not a time when restaurants really want you to be bothering them to taste, right? They're very, very busy. But even, you know, leading up to that, the year before that, obviously I'd been doing the groundwork to make relationships. And so my plan was to be mostly online, and then to have my wine in, you know, the restaurants in the places where I personally, you know, I lived in San Francisco for a long time. I lived in Washington, D.C. for a long time. I just recently moved to Vail, Colorado. I grew up in Denver. So kind of to partner with restaurants and, you know, people that I knew and chefs that I really liked, and have it available, you know, mostly as a marketing, I would say a marketing opportunity for me. Actually, the wine industry is interesting. You guys are all familiar with Warby Parker, et cetera. There is a huge amount of markup in the middle between the producer and the consumer. And so, and there are antiquated laws stemming from prohibition that mandate that, and they're all state by state, so it's a whole matrix of confusing laws, but, you know, mandate, and they're changing, but in the past, right, you had to go from the producer to a wholesaler, then to either a wine store or a restaurant, and then to the consumer. So really, it's much better for the consumer. You know, I can charge much less. I don't have to mark my product up as much to sell direct. And it's much better for me because, you know, I keep that margin instead of, you know, going through the wholesaler. So that said, restaurants and wine stores really do, you know, a great service, and they obviously, you know, have their very important place. That wholesale chunk is where a lot of value is lost. But anyways, from a business perspective, I wanted to be mostly direct to consumer and then have my wine in specific stores and restaurants, sort of as a brand building, marketing. I keep wanting to say ploy. That's the wrong word. It's not a ploy, right? But a brand, to build my brand. And I can't think of the right word. But since COVID, I pretty much stopped doing any of that because restaurants are really struggling, as everyone knows. And they've already got a bunch of wine inventory that they're trying to get rid of. So I've been, just trying to support restaurants by buying, food and wine from them. And I've been trying to focus more on social media and digital marketing and improving those marketing channels.
Well, and it's an interesting parallel actually, because that's one of the reasons why Boutique Box is a collaborative model. So we don't buy the inventory, but we're creating a way for the designers to connect with the customer, and in the meantime helping them find that like exact right fit for that same reason, because so much value is lost in the middle. And like, so when you're shopping Ann Taylor and paying 40% off, that's like actually what you should be. That's I call it a price correction. So which then ends up like getting people into this like, sale mentality, value. It's a whole thing. So to your point, it's interesting that like your law degree will end up helping you as you navigate all the laws between the states, countries. They are the same anyways. And, look to grow. And as they change, like you can leverage that in a way that others may not be able to as easily. You're going to have other things where you need support, but like, if you can save on legal fees, that saves you a pretty good chunk. So
yeah, I did all my own incorporation documents and all that good stuff. And I do, my own legal work. So that is, thank God, that thousands and thousands of dollars to my law education that I didn't use for very long, but it's such good training and it's a way to think, and obviously the networks, and I don't regret. It's interesting as women, I'd kind of like to hear other people's perspectives too, but one of the big reasons I wanted to become a lawyer, this is digressing from wine, and I felt it was empowering in a way that it's kind of like an armor or a shield. It's sort of like, hey, I know that I know what I'm talking about. I now have the credentials so that I know what I'm talking about. So it was both for me, like really helped me build my confidence. And then, I like, sort of I wanted that protection sort of as I went through the world. So, yes, anyway, that's a digression, but before, so I'm well, be mindful of time. Catherine, I want to know about Boutique Box though. Tell me, so I want to know, this is such a beautiful group of women. I want to know